think about different aspects of your life, right? What is your value as a worker? What is your value as a teacher, as a parent, as a sister, brother, mother, father? You know, all those different things. Oh, found my pen. Hey, Miss Maddie. It's Maddie Frampton. All those different things when it comes to knowing your value. So, um, um, ladies with flavor. Say, girl. So, like I said, don't mind the noises. I'm at one of my places where I come and reflect, do work, usually do work, and things like that. The one and only Maddie Frampton. That's right. So, like I said, I'm actually gonna time myself because I don't want to be on here talking too long. And so, so again, we're gonna talk about value, you guys. Oh, thank you, Miss Christina. I will. God bless you too, madam. So these are for those. This is for everybody, really. This is one that doesn't get talked about a lot. So, first thing I want to do is I want to say what's up to my boy Daniel. He does. Kai's in the building. I want to say what's up to my boy Daniel. He said, "Oh, I'm late." Nah, you good. Who does Bridging the Gap? He's on Instagram. He's a major in the Army. Strong brother. A guy I've known for over 25 years. I call him my brother. I don't call him my friend. I call him my friend, but I also be like, well, that's my brother. Like he's an influence in my life. And so shout out to him for doing Bridging the Gap. Daniel, keep doing your thing, man. It's beautiful. The thing you're providing for people, the thing you're giving people, especially from your perspective, being in the Army, and especially during this time as a young black man, basically. And also shout out to Kai. He does his prayer Tuesdays and he does his thing on Fridays. So make sure y'all check that out. I'm praying for you, my brother. I know what you wrote in there for one of your heartfelt prayers, and so I got you. I got you. Sorry, the wind's starting to come through, so it might get a little breezy and a little shaky. God just giving me some God giving me, my boy Shay's on. God giving me some breath. That's what he doing. He giving me some breath, to get this thing rolling, because he like this gonna be a good one, or the storm about to come in. So So sorry if it gets kind of loud and kind of windy. Hopefully it'll kind of chill out for a second. So, but 3 sips of your drink. I'm at the gym. Hey man, come, bam, there you go. My boy Siler's in the building. So value, you guys, value. So I was talking to Kai, shouting out Kai for what he does. I also want to shout out Quentin, my boy Q. For putting on the protest for us on Sunday, man. It was a beautiful thing. Lots of dancers out. We had a good time. We partied. We danced. We spoke about what was going on. So shout out to those 3. You know what I mean? Like they did their thing there. So like I said, to those individuals, Kai, Daniel, Q, keep holding it down. To my boy, Siler. He's always putting knowledge out there. He's always talking in the mix, especially in the Dallas community. So shout out to you, man, for your knowledge and everything like that. So let's get into this. So value, you guys. I want y'all to tell me what y'all think. Miss Kiara, I want y'all to tell me what y'all think value is for you. What does it mean? Well, why is it important for us to know what our value is? And so here's why I say it's important for us to know our value, because what it does is it helps you to know what you will accept, what you will tolerate, and what you will not accept, right? Because we have to know where our value comes for us, so that 1, we can draw boundaries, 2, we don't sell ourselves short, right? So, why is that when it comes to, Mr. Johnny? Why is it to know our value? Is because we know how to set boundaries and limits with others. Not only that, we do it with ourselves, because it's going to influence, our value is going to influence everything that we do or touch, right? So whether you're a parent, a family, a friend, a wife, a husband, even when you're at work, one of the biggest are friendships, I think I mentioned already. So that's why it's so important. It helps us, it dictates how we're going to behave as well. You hold yourself to a high value, a high standard, you're going to behave that way. Hold yourself to a low one, you're going to behave that way. But either way, you get the choice of how you're going to behave towards it. So So that's the how, right? That's the why. So the how, I had doctors in the building, so how do we get to understanding and knowing our value? So first you got the why. Now here's the how do you get to it? Well, it starts early, right? Here's what I tell folks. Your intrinsic value is going to be determined based on your extrinsic values, which means, and I mean values as in items or people, right? Or variables. So for example, my intrinsic value, your intrinsic value is going to be influenced by Mr. Adrian's at. What's up, Mr. Adrian? What up, Pam? Our intrinsic value, the value we bestow upon us, is going to be influenced by our parents, our friends, if you go to a church, if you play a sport, the school you go to, any organizations you're a part of, your spirituality. There's a guy named Urie Bronfenbrenner that I like to talk about, Miss Emma. Hello, Miss Emma. Urie Bronfenbrenner, that talks about these microsystems. And these are everything from, or these systems, my dad's on, hi dad, everything from the microsystems to the chronological systems. Those are going to influence our value no matter what. Mr. Darnell, what's happening? That's going to influence our intrinsic value. So, no matter what, the things outside of us are going to influence how we feel about ourselves. Bottom line, right? And particularly, it starts within the family. It starts when you're little. That's going to teach you how to find your value as a person, right? And so, our family tends to be the main source. So now you got the how. You got the how we get it. We get it from people. We get it from our relationships. We get it from any relationship we have, right? Whether it's work, family, or whether it's romantic. Usually, friendships are a big one about your value. Because what happens is once we get all of that feedback from the outside world, from our extrinsic, our environment, we internalize that and we create a value for ourselves. One of the things I was always taught was always to be better than yesterday, right? So I've always had this thing about myself where my parents held me to a high standard and a high value. And so now you have the why and you have the how. When? Well, it starts the moment we come up out the womb. It doesn't matter. As soon as we come out that womb, as soon as the doctor slaps you on the butt, now you cry, he slaps you on the butt, it begins, right? It begins when somebody's saying, oh, that's such a cute baby, you're such a good baby, you're such a sweet little you're such an cute little baby. No matter what it is, that's when our value develops. Our value doesn't develop solely from positive things, positive feedback. It comes from negative feedback as well, because you can bestow a value on you that is a negative, unhealthy, low value based on what the negative, healthy, things that were told to you, or you can flip that and you can turn it into I'm gonna create a high value for myself because those low value things are not of what I want, right? But also, your high value can be created from those around you that support you, love you, care about you, show you, oh, Mr. Z's on, shows you lots of support and encouragement, right? That, oh, you're the best at this, you're the greatest at this, you're wonderful, you're smart, you're intelligent, all these wonderful things, right? But that also can be a trap, because imagine giving somebody too much of a high value to the point where it hinders them, right? To where and then Adrian says, and we decide what we decide to accept as our values. We pick the perspective we choose to adopt. Exactly, right? Exactly. And so what happens is, even within that high value, you got somebody supporting you, pushing you forward, do that, you're better than this. If it's not balanced, right, with humility, then it can turn detrimental. So you got the why, the how, the when, right? Why? Because it helps us set boundaries for ourselves and for others. It creates our goals. It creates our strengths. It's going to dictate how we behave, right? The how, friends, family, any system that influences us. When? As soon as we come out the womb, right? Where does it happen? It happens everywhere. That's pretty easy, right? It happens everywhere we are. So you got the who, well, and I told you what the what, right? Oh, well, I really didn't. But the value is, the intrinsic value you bestow on yourself is, how do I rate myself as a human being, as a person, right? How do I rate myself as somebody walking this planet based on what people have told me? And also, Adrian used the right word, accept. What am I willing to accept for myself? Now, you have good people around, you have support systems, you have all those beautiful things. And so, how do you start clicking the value together? Well, you start revisiting all those emotions, all those times where Either your mother said something, your father said something, your boyfriend, your husband, and to see how it feels. Go to that feeling, right? If you feel down, depressed, just disrespected, if somebody's, just being mean to you, nasty to you, right? You may start internalizing that and having those thoughts in your head that this is who I am. I'm just a no good piece of whatever, right? So then that sets your value to say, I can accept anything then. I'm going to accept anything. I'm going to take on anything, right? And so you grab on to what it is that you feel. But also when you feel good about it, right? You succeed. Somebody boosts up your boost who you are as a person. For example, if you're a handsome young person, you're a beautiful young person, you're intelligent, you're better than this, you're all those wonderful things, right? You know that somebody's instilling in you something to help you create your value so you don't end up settling. And usually when we don't know our value, hello, Miss Rosemary. Usually when we don't know our value is when we tend to get very down on ourselves, right? Because we forget what our value was. So you have the intrinsic part of yourself and the extrinsic part. The extrinsic, the environment's going to influence who you are and what you say about yourself. Okay, so that's kind of the easy introduction. If y'all have questions or comments, feel free to pop them in. Okay, Adrian says, how do we help rebuild the value in our fellow brothers and sisters because too many of us are stuck in what they see, neighborhood, life, attitude, self-esteem, or lack thereof? I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to get to that. I got you. Good question. So one of the things I will say that is always tell somebody they're better than what they think they are. I always tell humans that you are better than what you think you are. You are much more than who you think you are. And hello, Miss Sarita. And much more than you tend to be. One story I always remember was in high school, and I remember I got down on myself when I was in the sophomore year. And I remember my dad telling me, you don't have to give a fuck what they think. Excuse my language, but he was like, you don't have to give a fuck what they think. Ever since then, I've always carried myself with, I never gonna allow anybody to disrespect me, degrade me, or do anything that's gonna influence me as a person that's gonna bring me down. Because I've always been taught to always be the best. And so Adrian, the first part of that is that part. You always tell people, you're better than this. You are better. Here's the hard part. Is when it comes to relationships, and not romantic, platonic, but when it involves whatever is influencing you. Because things can really knock you down and you get comfortable with the acceptance. That's why value is so important. So Adrian, when you mention that about neighborhoods, their livelihood, it's because they've accepted that is a part of who they are. That is what they are, right? That is who they've seen. That's what their environment has told them, right? And so I'm a segue, perfect example. One of the movements with this Black Lives Matter thing is that if we look over at history, thank you, Dad, I'll see you later on, boss man, is that for the longest time, somebody has dictated the value and standard of a black individual. We must understand that, right? The way we're talked to, the way we're treated, the way we're seen, that standard and value, even for women, that standard and that value has been established by somebody else, right? For the blacks, the whites, right? Or let's say in American history, the whites have set the standard for many things. Specifically, white men, right? Is that everything had to be kind of passed through and gone through them. And so that standard, that value has been placed on us. So guess what? Now everybody has that same value. Oh, sis is in the building. Hey, Miss Cretia. So our value has been determined by somebody else, our standard. So their behavior based on my value or our value is going to dictate how they behave and how they treat us. And so what we have to do is start, here's how we get past that, is that not only do we challenge the standard that in this situation with George Floyd, that, yes sir, yep, yeah, you're right on, Adrian. And so the way we change the standard of how somebody has value is put on us. And if you go through the history books, the way they sold slaves, the way they, we had to fight for rights, just like women. I mean, y'all had to fight for your rights. You had to fight for your voice because somebody put a standard and a value on you. That was men, sorry. And so we must, as individuals, challenge that standard and value that was set by somebody, right? So even black, for my brothers and sisters, black, brown, Latino, whatever, even the whites, we have to challenge the standard that the majority has set. But most importantly, the majority has to challenge the majority's standard that they put on us, right? I saw somebody, this was crazy. I saw somebody post like a George Floyd picture, and they posted his rap sheet, like what he did wrong. And I asked this person, I said, okay, let's say your facts are accurate. Do you think he deserved that treatment? Did he deserve to die? And I didn't hear an answer. My boy Edwin's in the building. My Aunt Katie's here. Hello. And so I asked that person, do you believe that he deserved to die? There was no answer. And that was okay, because I was like, that's the standard though, right? That's a rationalization. That is an illogical rationalization, right? This man, Miss Kara's here, this man's value based on what his behaviors, what he did, he went to jail, he went to prison, he served his time, he did his due, right? The rationalization was, here was his rap sheet, so what that he was killed by a police officer? What kind of value and standard is that? Most folks would challenge, would you say that about Dylan Ruth? Would you say that about the young man that went and that shot up the theater? Right? Why does he deserve protection when they just did something heinous so that they can go serve their time? Another thing, and y'all know the story about the kid in Fort Worth, that the drunk driving kid that was driving drunk, he was 6. Yep, the El Paso shooter. The kid that was drunk driving when he was like 16, killed 4 people, got probation, and he got sent to a rehab place because he had affluenza disorder. It's not I don't know. I need to go check, but I ain't never seen a DSM. But we have to challenge that standard, right, to the opposing people. And that means everybody has to challenge that standard. And that's why standards and values are so important, right? Is because if one is looking at you through one lens and not the other, and the lenses aren't balanced, then that's where the problem comes in. That's where the issue comes in. And so when it comes to standards and values, I'll even take it a step further. This is even in our relationships with people, right? Even with family, with friends, is that if my standard and my value is not being met as a person, what are my choices in that? Right? Yes, and violated at that. And violated and all that. Exactly, Adrian. And so, here comes the breeze. And so, when it comes to that standard and value that we set for ourselves, you're well within your right to determine and dictate who you keep around. That's why values and standards are so important, because they determine your boundaries. Right? My boy Choi One's in the building. They determine your boundaries. Right? And so without a standard or a value, there is none. One thing that comes to mind are individuals that are abused in relationships. The standard and value they have for themselves hasn't been established enough, and this is just a piece of it, hasn't been established enough to the point where they can leave, because they think this is all I need, this is all I deserve. I expect this, it's all my fault, because it hasn't been, my best friend's my best friend. It hasn't been established, right? That value. So with this Black Lives Matter movement, if you're willing to place a standard or a value on somebody's life that has been determined years and years and years, hello, Miss Claire, years and years back, then we have to change that value and that standard that's been placed on, specifically on black individuals. And we need individuals such as our white brothers and sisters. We have to talk to you guys so you understand, hey, my value and standard cannot be based on this. what either you may know or learn, and then we need those white brothers and sisters to go talk to the other white brothers and sisters who have a different idea or standard of value and say, hey, I think you might have the wrong idea. You might have the wrong thought about this situation, the way in which you look at it. And that's okay to have that conversation. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It means, how can I plant that seed in your mind to at least make you go, you're probably pretty accurate in that, right? Another thing about values, why do we need them? We need them so we don't settle. That is of the utmost importance when I talk to my clients. I see a lot of people who come in and talk about how they're hurt in their relationships, how they're hurt in their relationships, and how what they need from their partner, they need from somebody, is important. Perfect example. On its basic level, each one of y'all can agree to this. If y'all could raise your hand, you probably would. One of your values is, I value respect. I value honesty. I value integrity. I value charity, benevolence, altruism. Didn't score high on the SAT. I didn't. But you value those things, and they're a part of you. Now, if somebody comes in and tests those values, challenge those values, and in a way that turns you into somebody you're not, hey, there she is, Tissa Tata. Hey, how's it going? Flat dollar, what's happening? Is that if those things are pulled away, then somebody's going to invade those values left and right. Somebody's going to disrespect you. Somebody's not going to be benevolent. They're probably going to be very malicious. And somebody who doesn't value honesty, transparency, and putting it on, oh, hello, Uncle Lenny, and putting it on the table. If people overstep those values for you, then you get to make a decision, right? And so those are what's important, is those values. And this you're right, Adrian, good point. He says the issue is that we sometimes plant those seeds in unhealthy soil, not conditioned to produce fruit. Exactly. And here's the big part, my boy Jack's here. Here's the big part of it, is that seed is passed down from somebody. Right. It's passed down from somebody, and so therefore what happens is the same nutrients, the same water that is supposed to nurture that seed, they nurture it in a very unhealthy, unfashionable way. Because a lot of times it's nurtured through some sort of negative aspect, right? Some sort of negative reinforcement, some sort of negative punishment. And so, knowing your values is very important in that matter. And like I said, when it comes to, let's talk about women needing things from a man, right? In a relationships are easy because we can always, hop on them. Miss Isabel, we can always talk about them. So in relationships, if the core values that you stand for in a relationship are being overstepped and they're not being addressed, then it's your job as the person to go and say something, to go and say, hey, look, here's what I need from you. I need transparency. Here's what I need from you. I need you to be straightforward. Here's what I need from you. I need you to see me as me. Not what you want to see me as, but I need you to see me as me. Because that's what I need from you. Oh, Miss Venetia's here. Hello. Because that's what I need from you. And that's the important about that value, because it establishes a boundary. Now, the good thing about the boundary is you know where and how far people get to be away from you. So, for example, if somebody does not see my value, or they tear me down, that I start tearing my own intrinsic value down, then I put it to them this way. I will either wave at you. This is kind of the distance, emotional distance I put between people. I'll wave at you. I might shake your hand. I might give you a little fist bump. I might give you the bro shake. I might give you the bro shake with a hug, or I might give you a hug. To me, that's the way of the emotional part if you don't understand my value, right? I'm always going to love, I tell people this 99,000%. I'm always going to care about you and love you no matter what as a human being, no matter what. Doesn't matter if you disagree with the movement. I'm still going to, because as a person, you deserve that. We all deserve love, no matter what. Emotional distance, though, is up to me based on my values and my boundaries, right? If you're someone who's not able to see a different perspective or to counter my idea, and here's the difference. Not to make you agree with me, just to make you go, that's what I'm all about. And that's what we should be about, especially in this movement, is we're just trying to get y'all to go, for some of y'all, right? Just go, That's a good point. That's it, right? And so what happens is we don't even get the we get the whatever. And so at that point, if one of my deep values is I want to communicate with you, I want to talk with you, but yours is to shut down, then I then know my value of communication is not important in this situation. Can we work on it? Yes. Excuse me. Can we work on it? Absolutely. But it's not there in the moment. So that's why values are important. Now I'm going to keep it to some real easy ones. Ladies, especially for you, a lot of your values tends to come from a male perspective or the male relationship, usually from your father figure, right? And so, right, kind of things that make you go, that's it. I just want to go, And so know your value. It's important to know your value and don't settle. Because then what you need and what you want will get overstepped time and time again. And you end up becoming frustrated, and you end up becoming upset, and you end up becoming disappointed. You know, you start feeling like nobody sees you. The guy doesn't really see you for who you are. For my men, a lot of ours tends to come from the relationship with our mothers, right? In the sense that I want you to see that I'm doing well, that I'm good enough, right? A lot of us want to be warriors, and we want to see that, oh, you're doing the great things, you're doing a good job. It comes from both parents, but in terms of relationships, that is an important thing. Exactly. Adrian says, I have 4 daughters and I'm constantly preaching this, right? This is where your values come in. I'm going to hit y'all another one, okay? Because this is the one I tell everybody, and even for us, even for myself, look out for this, is that when you're looking at the opposite sex, you're looking at somebody, it's the man's responsibility to teach his daughters what type of man, husband, and father she needs to marry or look for from a value perspective based on his own experience. And vice versa. Mom, your job is to teach the son what type of wife, mother, woman he is to find and look for based on your experience as a mother, right? Now, for the fathers, your job is to tell the son what kind of man, husband, and father he needs to be based on your experience. Vice versa for the mom. Your job is to teach your daughter what type of woman, what type of what type of wife, and what type of mother she needs to be. Because a man cannot teach a woman how to be a woman, and a man cannot teach a woman cannot teach a man how to be a man, and a man can't teach a woman how to be a woman. And that's where the values come from. That's where those deep values come from, even those core ones as a person, right? And so that's why that intrinsic value for yourself is so important, because it lets you know what I do want to be and what I don't want to be, right? And so, all right, my uncle says, one thing I can say that there's not always a man in the family, so a lot of this women has to learn come from relationships, hardships, and that's how they grow and hard to understand boundaries when you're not taught. Good, I'm glad you mentioned that, Uncle Lenny, because here's one thing that hits a lot of parents I work with kind of hard. There's something that your parent's not going to be able to give you, no matter what. All of our parents don't. And so what happens is the woman that doesn't have that father figure, or vice versa, you go find, here's the most important word, you go find somebody who is you trust. Because ultimately in all relationships, love, friendship, whatever, that is the ultimate thing, is do I trust you enough with information that's going to help me be a better person, right? There are things that my dad's not going to give me that I need, and that's okay. But it's my job to go find that from a trusted source who I know who has been through the situation and who can move through it, right? That's why there's this, and same thing for women, that's why there's this idea of mentors, right? And individuals you find. That's why learning from one person is important, right? So even if there's not a man in the family, it doesn't mean that information can't be sought out or sought after, right? Even for the woman, right? I had a colleague who would say, because her father wasn't because her father wasn't the ideal kind of the dad he wants. She saw somebody else. She was like, man, that's such a cool dad. Like, he's such a cool father. And I was like, yes, because in a part of us, there are things that we want, so we have to go find them. And so, here's the thing when it comes down to it, when it comes to knowledge. A lot of people with this movement are saying, educate, educate, educate. You're right. Okay, so Nisha says, what about a single mom with a son? Same thing. That's why a lot of us guys gravitate towards coaches, right? But the coach becomes that father figure, that person who can guide you, the person who can show you, the person who can teach you, the person that gives you that attention, that like, hey, young man, you can go do it. They give us that. That's why a lot of men gravitate towards coaches. Women do too. As well, they gravitate towards coaches, but they will gravitate towards those women who are the strong ones, the powerful ones. Why? Because there's that piece that's missing. There's that mama that's missing ultimately. So Nisha, that's a good question. A single mom that has a son. What you do is you here's just an example how I've helped clients. I say, here's what you do. You figure out the values that you were taught by your family, that you were and were not taught. The ones that you were taught that you like, keep those. The ones that you were taught that you don't like, get rid of them. The ones that you want to find and you want, go find them, right? The ones that you don't want, stay away from them, right? Because the ones that we don't want, the values we don't want, we can identify, and that lets you know, whoop, boundary, let me back up. I can't, gotta go the other way, right? But the ones we do want, you push them to, right? And the hard part, though, the challenge is getting over that fear and getting over that nervousness. And being honest with yourself and saying, am I getting the value what I want from this person or this individual? If not, where can I go find it? Many of y'all will spend, my boy Orlando in the building. Many of us will spend time going to different stores trying to find the thing that we need to find, right? Go to one store, it's not there, I'm gonna go to another one. Go to another store, it's not there, I'm gonna go to another one. Go to another store, it's not there, I'm going to another one. Unless y'all hop on Amazon, because then Amazon might have what you're looking for. But we'll go to different stores to get what we need. It's the same thing with values and the same thing with what we need. You go until you find the right one about what you need, right? And so, and I'll even say this, even for those with the single parents, when it comes to values of young men and women, is that you can teach them about your personal experience. Like, here's what you don't want to be a part of. Because it made me feel this way. It made me feel sad. It made me feel down. It really drained my self-esteem. You live in those moments of talking about your personal experience, so they at least get the information in their head. And so, that's why there are different organizations and things that we put our young men and our young women in to prepare them. But it's not going to matter as much as coming from the source of who we are. So, just to kind of wrap it up, and again, all you guys, know your value as a person, right? Know your value. And when somebody, like, for example, let's talk about the movement for a second. When somebody challenges that value as a person, one thing I'll talk is that you challenge them back, because that's how we grow. We must challenge them. The same thing when I talked about accountability, like we have to challenge the value. Like, the biggest thing is the police officers to the black community. We have to challenge their values, challenge the mission statement they stand for. Once we challenge that, then we can have them go, if you're saying as a police officer, one of the values you hold is to protect and serve, to treat everybody equally, and to I'm trying to think of another one. My homeboy Jay, I have to ask my homeboy Jason. But let's say protect and serve. That's the value a police officer holds. Once you have once you've had people protected from the bad guy, when does it click in that you go, I'm no longer treating this person like a human, I'm treating him like hunted game, right? So we have to challenge those values, challenge those things, challenge those values, right? And one thing I do want to say, value who you are, value who you are, whether it's from a spiritual perspective, whether it's from a work perspective. I tell people all the time, you want to get the job you want, you go out and get it, and you put on the table, in any situation, put on the table what you need. Here's what I value. One thing and I'll start wrapping up, getting along. One thing I do when I think about values is when I go to a job, I said, here's what I stand for. I stand for communication, partnership. I want to feel included. I value teamwork. I value collaboration. I value transparency, and I value honesty. and I value my opinion and my thoughts and my concerns being heard. If at any point in time I feel those are overstepped, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to bring it to you. If I bring it to you a second time, I'm going to hope something's going to move. If I bring it to you a third time, I'm going to start looking for another job. And I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, right? Because I know my value. Same thing with all of you guys. You know, knowing your value, to go in any relationship you're in, you put that value on the table and say, this is important to me, right? So that you know right away, like, this person values themselves or who they are, you know. And the other thing I want, you know, as I wrap up, you guys, when it comes to value, you know, my client asked me today, white lady asked me today, she asked me about, she was like, I don't understand the color thing. And then she found out I was half black and half Mexican, because we haven't met each other, we do it over the phone. So she found out I was a half black and half Mexican, and she said, I am so sorry if I ever offended you. And I said, client, I said, you didn't, and it's okay. I said, my job as a person is to hear what your beliefs are, because our beliefs become our values. And it's to give you a different perspective, because you only see it one way, and that's okay. That's not your fault. That's what you've been taught. So I need you to see my value for who I am as a person in a whole different perspective. And I told her, I said, for years, you know, there have been that standard and value placed on black individuals where we've been mistreated unfairly, and it's not proportion, right? And she was like, yeah, I just think, are those cops bad people, or they just don't like us? I said, it tends to be both. And I said, it's not every police officer. I said, but when they decide to ignore the color thing, you cannot deny the genetic part, the scientific component, the genetics behind it. You cannot deny what created this person, right? I don't see color. Okay, that's great. You don't have to see color, but you can see heritage. You can see genetics. You can see DNA as it's displayed, right? And so I told her, I said, so it's not your fault. It's not anything you did. It's just the way you look at something. And it's okay to open your mind so that you see me as a different thing, because I value my genetic makeup. I value my lineage and my history. And that's how we move it forward, right? So remember, wrapping up, why do we need intrinsic value and standards for ourselves? So that we can set those boundaries. It teaches us how we're going to act and carry ourselves. You know, how do we get them? Look at your relationships. Look at when times you felt like you've been mistreated, disrespected, that goes counter to your values. And those times where things were good, you were praised, you were encouraged, you worked hard, and those values were appreciated. When does it start? The moment we come out the womb, right? As soon as we get that slap on the butt, and we get the crying. Where? Everywhere, no matter where we turn. By who? All those systems I mentioned, from the micro level to the chronological level. Chronological level being something like 9/11, right? You can pull a value out of that, right? And I wasn't directly tied to it, but it's like, no, one of my values is I value my life, and I value protection, and I value my safety. And so I want to be okay, because you never know who feels the same way or doesn't feel the same way. And so how do we get it? Like I said, you go and review your life, think about those things. Hey, Miss Jenny, right? For my, even think about your businesses, right? Our businesses want to have certain values. All of our dance studios want to have a certain standard that we carry and standard that we hold, right? And so that's a beautiful thing when you have a dance studio, is that you want to hold it to a good standard, to a big standard. The challenge is, do the people who are engaged in those businesses hold themselves to a high standard, right? And so intrinsic value and standard are, like I said, guys, are first and foremost extremely important. And the way we teach those is we identify the values the values we like, the values that we don't like, and you get to pick and choose. Now, if there are values you don't have, or that you would like to have, then you go in a different place, you go elsewhere, and you find it. You find those values, right? So, thank y'all for chiming in. I'll try to keep it on 30 minutes, but hopefully I answered some of y'all's questions. If y'all have a topic y'all want to talk about, I really want to talk about this one, because I want every one of you to value yourself. But not only value yourself, don't limit yourself when it comes to your value. Continue to grow, continue to inspire, continue to motivate, whether it's your kids. And it starts, you guys, I cannot say this more, it starts when you're young. But it doesn't stop when you turn 18 or 35, right? For my family members out there, for my people out there, you guys, for my parents out there who have adult kids, here's what I will say, because it's one of the hardest things when I deal with clients, even myself, is that never stop parenting. It doesn't matter if your kid turns 18. It doesn't matter if they're 25. It doesn't matter if they're 30. It doesn't matter if they're 40 or 50. Until you leave this planet, you will always be a beacon of support, of love, of wisdom, of knowledge. And so continue to teach people those values so that they become the better them, including my dancers. So I love y'all, man. Thank y'all again for, this platform to talk. And here comes the wind, so it's my time to go. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Remember, if nobody else loves you, know that I do. Go ahead, I'm listening. If y'all have a topic, it doesn't have to be anything deep. It can be something light. We can talk about shoes and all that stuff. Then give me a shout. But one last metaphor. If you want to be treated, for my ladies, if you want to be treated like some Louis Vuitton, some red bottoms, my gentlemen, if you want to be treated like a pair of Jordans, do you value and carry yourself like that? That's what I wanted to ask yourself. If you have a certain value, you want to be treated in a certain way, a certain value, do you carry yourself that way? Because that's the most important part. I'm out. I love y'all, man. Y'all be safe. You're welcome, Miss Jerica. And so, embrace somebody, love somebody. I love you guys no matter what. We can be on different pages, but there's at least one person that loves you for no matter what you do, no matter how you do. God has called me to love my people for people, and I love y'all, man. So I'm out. Y'all be safe out there, all right? Bye. Hey, hello. Yeah, I like it says you and Miss Gina. Bye, y'all.